Ready to make some glow-in-the-dark yarn today? I am! Materials we will be using: 7 ounces of white acrylic yarn, something to stir with, I chose a whisk, 8 pieces of yarn cut, maybe like 4 inches long or 5, you decide, it's your yarn, you do what you want, of a different color, this will be used to tie it. You will need at least 4 ounces of glow-in-the-dark craft paint. This is that cheap stuff you get. I chose 8 fluid ounces just because it was cheaper on Amazon, but you can just buy 2 of the small 2-ounce bottles. It works just fine. Then you'll need something to do the dyeing in. I have this square tin foil casserole thing that I found. You can use anything you would like, and as an option you can use a scale just to make sure that you are using half of the yarn when wrapping it around a chair. Okay, so I have my chair and I have my yarn. I'm going to, I guess we'll hang that over that way, and we're just going to wrap it around. We're going to want it in a big, like, circle thing, like I showed you in the beginning. So once you get going, it'll be a lot easier. And we're just going to wrap it. If you don't have a chair to do it around, I did it around a box earlier, if you saw my other video. And you're just going to keep going and going until you're about halfway done. Because I'm crazy, and maybe some of you might be like me and you like things exact. You can set your yarn on a food scale, which was optional, and as you pull, it's gonna, go down. So since this was a 7 ounces, we're gonna try to shoot for about 3.5 ounces left. Okay, I'm about halfway done. It's at 5 ounces left, and I'm going to 3.5. Again, if you don't have a chair to do this around, a box, a piece of cardboard, it doesn't matter. You just need it in a loop. The first time I did it around my arm, but I don't recommend that because it got really, really tired. So I'm just going to keep going to the end. All right, as you can see, I have 3.5 ounces left of the yarn. I have it all wrapped around this chair. Now we're going to take those strips of yarn that we cut earlier, and oh boy, I put this on there real tight. But we're gonna, okay, don't put it on so tightly. We're gonna loop it or put it behind all of this to make a little knot. This is why you want longer strings. You're gonna tie it loosely because we want the yarn to be able to move around when we're soaking it. So I'm gonna put 4, one here, one here, one here, and then on the back. So that took like 5 minutes to get it off the chair, so don't wind it very hard. But here's my hot tip. Make sure your ends are nice and long, and I put them kind of close to here, so they'll be a lot easier to find when we make it into a ball later. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this so that we'll have 2 of them. All right, so now we have 2. Ready for the fun part. All right, you're going to grab your basin, whatever you're using, and we're going to add warm water. Now, I'm going to fill it maybe halfway. This is where some of you might get angry that there are no specific measurements for the water. I will tell you why when we start dipping it and what not. Okay, so we have our water, our warm water. Now we're going to take our yarn. We're going to pre-soak it. Something about science and something about how it will open up and take the paint more. So we're just going to keep dipping it in. You don't want to overflow, right? We're going to make sure it's really soaked. So you want to flip it over. And you want to get up in there under where we've tied it, because that area is going to be really squished with yarn, and you want to really like work it in there. I kind of like do this motion, okay? And you're gonna, you'll be able, I mean, it's white yarn, but you'll be able to tell if it's all wet or not. And since it's acrylic usually doesn't get sopping wet. So it's going to take a minute for it to soak all the way in. So you'll want to like pick it up, check in between, make sure that it is all wet. You're going to look like you have some like udon noodles or something here. But don't eat it. Okay, don't. Okay. Now that we see that it's all wet, we're going to carefully start rinsing it out. Because it's acrylic, like I just said, once you just get some water out, it's going to look like it's all dry. Okay. I think it's good to get most of it out, but I mean, it's going to be soaking in paint water, so you don't have to do every single drip, okay? So there we have it. It is damp now. I'm going to set it to the side real quick. And now we have our water is still good for the paint. So like I said earlier, I have 8 ounces. You're just going to need 4. So I'm just going to eyeball it. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour it in. I can't really tell what's halfway, so we're just going to kind of guess. It'll work either way. Don't worry. We're still good. Keep going. Okay. Now we want to mix all of it together. What I've noticed is if we're not mixing, the paint will stay at the bottom. And it's hard to tell that because, as you can see, it's now all milky white. So you really want to make sure it gets mixed in there. Or you'll have one side like really, really crunchy of your yarn and one side not. So that's kind of why I chose a whisk. You can use a fork. You can use a paint, whatever, a spoon. I mean, whatever works for you. Just mix it all up. I'm going to do this for maybe a few minutes. Just to make sure it's all mixed in. I know sometimes you can kind of swirl it around, and then if it's dripping still, that's how you know there's still paint at the bottom. Okay, I think that's about good. So this paint, again, we'll use for both of the yarn loops that we made. Okay, so this one, remember we soaked it. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in there. Now, if you're worried about chemicals in hands, definitely use gloves. I myself have used acrylic paint so much in my life that I really don't care anymore, and I am going to be washing my hands after, okay? So don't come for me with no gloves. You use gloves. But then we're just going to start poking it and making sure that it is well saturated. Again, working in these areas where we tied it because it's going to have a hard time getting in there. Again, we're using kind of squishy, I don't know that term. If you have seasonings, the seasoning sprinkle, right? Just kind of working it in, but we don't want to start squishing all around because if you do that, then your yarn's going to really get tangled. Okay, and then to help it out, we can always pick it up very carefully and flip it over. Okay, and while it's soaking, it's okay if it's not submerged all underwater because there's a lot of paint in here, so it's going to be okay. Okay, and then you might want to check inside just to make sure everything is groovy and well coated. Okay, and then we're going to let this sit for, we're going to have a total time of 40 minutes. So we're going to do this first side because we want it to be even. This first side will be about 25 minutes, okay? Wait, 20 minutes. Math, whatever. So about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and flip it over, and then wait another 20. All right, time to flip, 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 flip. Been sitting about 20 minutes. Gonna pick it up carefully. Flip it over. Again, wear gloves if you are worried about acrylic on your hands. Then I'm just gonna kind of twinkle my fingers in there with the spots that we had tied. And just, you know, poke it down a little bit. Work it in, work it in. And then we'll let it sit about another 20 minutes. And then we'll wring it out and get it outside to dry. So fun. Okay, it's been soaking on this side for another 20 minutes. Now we're going to wring it out. It's going to be quite heavy, and I'm going to do it slowly because I noticed going too fast, then we're going to create a bunch of bubbles and like soapy bubbles, but it's not soap. So I don't really know. But this time I am going to try to make it as dry as I can. And just slowly working my way down. We've had a nice long time to soak, so it should be really good. Really goodly coated. Very well coated. Okay, my long end there. I think too, the more you can squeeze out, the less crunchy it's going to feel once it dries. At least, I think that. Science hasn't proven it, so. I think that's pretty good. Oh, a little bit more. Okay, and I have a clean counter here, so I'm just going to set it real quick because remember, we have our other one. So I'm going to actually get this pre-soaked. We still need to pre-soak it. I didn't pre-soak it earlier. I'm actually just going to do this over the sink real quick, and then we'll dip it. All right, back with it, nice and wet. After doing it in the sink like that, rinsing it, I do recommend soaking it in here. Right now my sink has dishes in it, so it was a little bit harder to make sure it was all drenched in water. So definitely the pan works a lot better. So just like we did with the other one, we're going to do the same steps for this. I'm not going to show it beyond this because it's the same exact thing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take our one that we squeezed out and we're going to go let it dry outside. On my patio, I have strung this piece of yarn up in a corner, so there's plenty of room for the air to flow around and through the fibers. I'm just opening it up a little bit for more airflow. 24 hours later. All right, now we embark on the super fun task of making it into a workable ball or whatever you would want to call it. So we're going to clip off our strings that helped hold it all together. I will say after it is done drying outside, it is a bit crunchy. I don't know if you can see through the camera, but it definitely has some texture to it. Okay, and I already found, I hope, is the outside pull, so it should come fairly nicely off. Someone had mentioned they wondered how I had such a nice ball. I'll just go ahead and show you. I just take 2 fingers and behind my thumb and I wrap it around a few times. That's it. Then I take it off. I make a figure 8, twist it, and then I just start wrapping. Start going around and around and around. I don't think you want to watch me do this, so, and with a little movie magic, we're all done. Happy crafting!